Christianity has always insisted that the cross we bear always precedes the crown we wear. We are not makers of history. We are made by history. We have a great dream. It started way back in 1776, and God grant that America will be true to her dream. Our problem is not to be rid of fear, but rather to harness and master it. All life is interrelated. The agony of the poor impoverishes the rich. The betterment of the poor enriches the rich. We are inevitably our brother's keeper because we are our brother's brother. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. You only need a heart full of grace. The major problem of life is learning how to handle the costly interruptions. The door that slams shut, the plan that got sidetracked, the marriage that failed, or that lovely poem that didn't get written because someone knocked on the door. He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is really cooperating with it. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into friend. There is within human nature an amazing potential for goodness. Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. It seems to me that education has a twofold function to perform in the life of man, and in society the one is utility and the other is culture. Education must enable a man to become more efficient, to achieve with increasing facility the legitimate goals of his life. In this world is a God whose matchless strength is a fit contrast to the sordid weakness of man. Your self-image should not come from the job you do, but from how well you do your job. The trailblazers in human, academic, scientific, and religious freedom have always been nonconformists. Unconditional love will have the final word in reality. When we see social relationships controlled everywhere by the principles which Jesus illustrated in life, trust, love, mercy, and altruism, then we shall know that the kingdom of God is here. If America does not use her vast resources of wealth to end poverty and make it possible for all of God's children to have the basic necessities of life, she too will go to hell. Use me, God. Show me how to take who I am, who I want to be, and what I can do, and use it for a purpose greater than myself. Normal fear protects us. Abnormal fear paralyzes us. Normal fear motivates us to improve our individual and collective welfare. Abnormal fear constantly poisons and distorts our inner lives. Our problem is not to be rid of fear, but rather to harness and master it. There comes a time when silence is betrayal. Have we not come to such an impasse in the modern world that we must love our enemies, or else? The chain reaction of evil, hate begetting hate, wars producing more wars, must be broken, or else we shall be plunged into the dark abyss of annihilation. The ultimate tragedy is not the oppression and cruelty by the bad people, but the silence over that by the good people. I am very glad Christ tells us to love our neighbor and not to like our neighbor, because it is hard to like someone threatening your children and throwing fire bombs through your window, but he asks us to love them, and that I can do. Forgiveness is not an occasional act, it is a constant attitude. Freedom only comes through persistent revolt, through persistent agitation, through persistently rising up against the system of evil. The failures of the past must not be an excuse for the inaction of the present and the future. The movement for equality and justice can only be a success if it has both a mass and militant character. The barriers to be overcome require both. We were not unmindful of the difficulties involved, so we decided to go through a process of self-purification. Power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. We must remember that intelligence is not enough. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. The complete education gives one not only power of concentration, but worthy objectives upon which to concentrate. Gandhi was inevitable. If humanity is to progress, Gandhi is inescapable. He lived, thought, and acted, inspired by the vision of humanity evolving toward a world of peace and harmony. We may ignore Gandhi at our own risk. Every person must stand up and be accountable, but be responsible for their actions. Before the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, we were here. Before the pen of Jefferson etched across the pages of history the majestic words of the Declaration of Independence, we were here. There is something wrong with our world, something fundamentally and basically wrong. I became convinced that non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. Our world hinges on moral foundations. God has made it so. God has made the universe to be based on a moral law. So long as man disobeys it, he is revolting against God. That is what we need in the world today, people who will stand for right and goodness. Returning violence for violence multiplies violence, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. The hope of a secure and livable world lies with disciplined nonconformists who are dedicated to justice, peace, and brotherhood. The road to freedom is a difficult, hard road. It always makes for temporary setbacks. Those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. Those who are not looking for happiness are the most likely to find it, because those who are searching forget that the surest way to be happy is to seek happiness for others. Find a voice in a whisper. Somebody must have sense enough and morality enough to cut off the chain of hate and the chain of evil in the universe. And you do that by love. You cannot defect form and insight. You cannot unsee what you have seen. A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual doom. Pity may represent little more than the impersonal concern which prompts the mailing of a check, but true sympathy is the personal concern which demands the giving of one's soul. You don't /T have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education.